Hello there, I'm your host Karim Zachary. This is World News coming to you live on All 24 News. Next are today's top stories. President Tebboune receives Malian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and Mali's Minister of Reconciliation, Peace and National Cohesion. Recovery crews at the site of the Yeti airline crash in Nepal have found the plane's black box data recorders, but it could be weeks before it's known why the plane went down. Also in our news, Germany's defense minister has resigned as the country faces pressure to increase its military support to Ukraine. And Italy's most wanted mafia boss has been arrested after 30 years on the run. Hello again and welcome to the program Fast in Our News. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received Malian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Abdoulaye Diop and Mali's Minister of Reconciliation, Peace and National Cohesion, Colonel Ismail Waig. After the meeting, Abdoulaye Diop affirmed the commitment of the Malian leadership to promoting bilateral relations and placing them above any consideration. He also praised Algeria's role in mediating to bring peace to his country, calling for redoubled efforts to unify visions and reiterating the financial leadership's commitment to supporting the pivotal and inclusive role that Algeria plays in Mali.
We are in Algeria. It is a great honor to be received by His Excellency the Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. We hold off a message from President of the Transitional Council, head of the Malian state, Colonel Assimi Goïta, to his brother Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to express sincere wishes for the health and the well-being of the brotherly and friendly Algerian people and their president. A message that bears the commitment of President Goïta to President Abdelmajid Tebboune to strengthen bilateral relations, relations of brotherhood, and friendship that unite our two countries, which share a common destiny.
And in Mali-related news, at least 5 police officers were killed and 3 others were wounded in an ambush in Kuala in southern Mali. 2 police vehicles were burned while 2 others were captured by the attackers during this operation. 2 gunmen were killed and others taken as prisoners. African experts called for the need to unite efforts and find a common strategy in order to find solutions to the crisis that the African Sahel region suffers from, especially those related to the security crisis, by activating solutions stemming from the African environment. During a conference organized by the Algerian Institute for Comprehensive Strategic Studies, the experts reviewed a number of solutions that would contribute to creating development and supporting stability, similar to the Trans-Saharan Road project as a strategic one.
Mais ceci s'inscrit dans le cadre d'une mission qui a été confiée.
This task is entrusted to us by the Secretary General of the United Nations and the head of the African Union mission to a team of high-level experts headed by the former president of the state of Niger, Mohamed Issoufou. Today we discussed with the experts of the National Institute of Comprehensive Strategic Studies questions related to the most important crises that the Sahel region suffers from in order to find solutions to the security crisis and ways to strengthen institutions and regional cooperation and enhance partnership and financing.
The Chief of Staff of the Algerian People's National Army, Lieutenant General Saïd Chengriha, accompanied by the Algerian Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, supervised the commemoration of the 10th anniversary of Tigan Turin attack on Monday. According to the Algerian Ministry of Energy and Mines statement, the event was also an opportunity to honor families of the Algerian and foreign victims and wounded, along with the family of the martyrs of Al-Ahmar Mohammed Al-Amin, who was killed during this terrorist attack. The special envoy of the United Nations Secretary General for Libya, Abdullah Bathili, after a tour he conducted in the city of Sirte, where he arrived to attend the meetings of the 5+5 Joint Military Committee, considered that restoring the legitimacy of institutions in Libya is extremely necessary for the reconstruction of the destroyed cities, such as the city of Sirte, and for fairly compensating companies and individuals.
All parties must refrain from any steps that may undermine the ceasefire. In this regard, I would like to urge the Council to assure all parties that restoring to violence and intimidation will not be acceptable and that the solution to the Libyan crisis is not a military solution.
In Western Sahara, the proceedings of the 16th Conference of the Polisario Front continue, as the interventions focused on the fourth day on the necessity of strengthening the military institution and upgrading the Sahrawi educational system. The Congress also revealed a wave of harsh Spanish criticism to the position of Pedro Sanchez's government towards the Sahrawi issue. Representatives of the coordinators of the Spanish associations in solidarity with the Sahrawi people affirmed their renewed solidarity and unwavering support for the cause on the path to freedom and independence.
The commitment remains despite what the Spanish government is doing. You will have friends in Spain, and here I ask you to consider us as activists of the Polisario Front.
Despite the very complex international context, the Sahrawi issue is still taking steps forward because we know that just causes have a single path and a path, which is the bear of freedom, victory, and independence of Western Sahara.
A new report by the National Authority for Financial Information in Morocco revealed a high rate of suspected money laundering crimes in the kingdom compared to previous years. The Moroccan official report, which was submitted to the Prime Minister Aziz Akhnouch, is a further sign of the corrupted state of Morocco and a sign of failure to secure the Moroccan public fund with all its varieties. A month after the outbreak of Markogate, the European Parliament will discuss human rights situation this week in a plenary session in Morocco, in a public session for the first time in a quarter of a century. Many international human rights organizations accuse the Moroccan regime on the situation of journalists in Morocco and other real and proven cases of human rights violations. Another attack in the DRC, this time at least 10 people were killed and 39 injured on Sunday in a bomb attack in a church in the northeast of the country. While the attack was not claimed, a suspect of Kenyan nationality has been apprehended.
We were listening to the preacher when we heard a loud blast. It threw us to the ground. It was shocking. I started to move on the side. I didn't know I was injured.
20 people were killed and 24 others were injured this Monday as a result of a collision between a passenger bus and a truck in northern Senegal, according to firefighters. This accident comes almost a week after a collision between two buses, which resulted in the deaths of at least 40 people. The Palestinian Ministry of Health announced the death of a child after sustaining serious injuries by the occupation forces during the raid on Dashish refugee camp in Bethlehem. Large forces of the occupation army stormed the Dashish refugee camp and launched a campaign of raids on citizens' homes, as a result of which clashes broke out. The soldiers fired bullets, tear gas and sound bombs at the Palestinian youth, which led to the injury of the 14-year-old Omar Lutfi Kumur, with a bullet in the head, to be announced dead at a later time. Still with Palestine, the Prime Minister Mohammed Shatia today pleaded the international community to open its eyes and see the crimes Israel commits on a daily basis in the occupied Palestinian territories. Let's take a listen.
Before healing a wound, we receive another in the succession of the Israeli crimes and the violations that colonizers and occupation forces continue committing in all cities, towns, villages and camps, as long as the criminals are sure that they are away from accountability and punishment. The protectors of Israel in the UN and international platforms should open their eyes and hearts to see these crimes against our people, and this will never prevent us from following our national rights until we achieve them.
Shatia also stressed that the Palestinian government considers the Knesset's approval of more laws of racial discrimination a very dangerous matter and aims to perpetuate the occupation annexation and delegitimize the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people.
إننا ننظر ببالغ الخطورة.
We look very seriously at the Israeli Knesset approval of more racial discrimination laws with the aim of perpetuating the occupation and annexation and delegitimizing the legitimate rights of our people.
To other topical news now. Recovery crews at the site of the Yeti airline crash in Nepal have found the plane's black box data recorders, but it could be weeks before it's known why the plane went down just 2 kilometers from the airport of Pokhara, killing at least 70 people. This is the worst air disaster Nepal has seen in decades. The country has been observing a day of mourning to mark what happened. Here's Zahra Farjani's report.
Nepal's deadliest plane crash in 30 years resulted in the death of 69 people. A day after the Yeti Airlines aircraft went down near the city of Pokhara in central Nepal, searchers and rescue workers found the cockpit voice recorder and flight data, which may help investigators determine what caused the plane carrying 72 people to crash in clear weather.
We have already recovered 69 bodies. The search operation, the flight met an extremely unfortunate fate by crashing on land. We don't know if it's due to a technical failure or some other reason, but the plane suffered a terrible accident.
Nepal observed a day of national mourning on Monday. Relatives of the victims of this air disaster were in tears outside the hospital as they waited for the bodies to be handed over to them.
My niece was very talented. She was also a very good student. She was very busy with her studies in Kathmandu. She also ran a makeup studio, as well as an online business platform. She would never hurt anyone. She was simple, and now God has taken away such a kind person. May her soul rest in peace.
A dear friend, he passed away unexpectedly. I noticed his name on the list. We started looking for him after seeing the name. We noticed that he was on the plane after speaking with his family.
There are 9 domestic airlines in Nepal, including Yeti Airlines and its unit Terra Air. Yeti and Terra plane crashes have killed at least 165 people in Nepal since 2000, out of a total of 359 dead from aviation accidents, according to data from the Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal, who named this incident the 3rd deadliest crash in the Himalayan nation history.
Chinese Foreign Ministry said on Monday that the joint statement of the US and Japan last week after 2 countries' Security Consultative Committee played tricks in rhetoric to confuse the public and amplifies the nuclear threat of making up pretexts with the goal of reducing Chinese military forces. The US and Japan agree that China is their greatest shared strategic challenge. The Foreign Ministry said Beijing will take necessary measures to defend its sovereignty, security, and development interests.
China will take necessary measures to resolutely defend its sovereignty, security, and development interests. We urge the United States and Japan to abandon the Cold War mentality, remove the evil spirit of containment and suppression of China, stop the dangerous acts of militarism and destabilizing the world, and return to the right path of peace, friendship, and cooperation.
At least 3 people were reported wounded this Monday after a neighborhood shopping area in Russian-controlled Donetsk was hit by shelling, with emergency services fearing people may remain under the rubble. In the eastern city of Dnipro, 3 people were killed in the ammunition explosion in the Russian region bordering Ukraine.
We were listening to the preacher when we heard a loud blast. It threw us to the ground. It was shocking. I started to move on the side. I didn't know I was injured.
Germany's defense minister has resigned as the country faces pressure to increase its military support to Ukraine. Christine Lambrecht said the media's focus on her was getting in the way of a factual debate about Germany's defense preparedness. The details with Osama Ayadi in this report.
Day after day, the war in Ukraine is unveiling several issues on the defense sector of the West in general and the European Union in specific. What was the main issue this time is the resignation of the German Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht. This is a further complication that Scholz is to face in the next period in his position as Chancellor. The unwanted situation comes amid the continuous question over the German military abilities, especially that the country is required to continue its support for Kyiv.
Die Bundesministerin der Verteidigung hat
The defense minister informed me today that she no longer wishes to continue in her role. I have worked well and gladly with Christine Lambrecht for many years. And now, during Russia's terrible war of aggression on Ukraine, the defense minister has shown tremendous commitment to ensuring that Germany moves on. After decades of stagnation, to be able to make the necessary changes vital for our country's defenses, but also concretely for the support of Ukraine.
The resignation of the German defense minister is not only a major issue for Ukraine. The European public opinion has also seen contrasting opinions over the endless support that the West is providing to Ukraine. Many reports have shown that even NATO capability of securing Europe remain in question. Furthermore, Europe is facing successive public refusal and demonstrations over the social and economic situation that Europe is facing. More trouble will engulf Europe as the US Defense Secretary is expected to visit Germany for a conference in the next few days as part of his country's mission to discuss further support for Ukraine, including whether to send the German-built battle tanks.
Ukraine's defeat may become a prelude to World War III. Therefore, today there is no reason to block support for Kiev, to procrastinate. Thus, I call for decisive actions by German government on all sorts of weapons to be delivered to Ukraine.
Ground situation in Ukraine's eastern regions is worsening, and every day is pushing the country a step towards collapse. Europe, on the other hand, has found itself between the devil and the deep blue sea. Governments have found themselves obliged to continue the generosity in international military aid and also find a breakthrough from the economic and social crises for their own peoples.
Still in Europe, France's oil sector unions have announced a general strike from next Thursday to protest against the government's initiation of a review of the pension system. The strike, which includes the closure of refineries, threatens the country with a new fuel crisis after that witnessed by the country at the end of last year. Many motorists are already filling up after last fall's shortages. Refinery blockages are looming, and some stations are temporarily short of fuel, except for diesel, that is.
Ça va repartir encore, je pense. Je pense cette fois-ci c'est à cause des retraites.
It's going to happen again, I think. This time it's because of pensions. Unfortunately, these small people like us are going through all this. I hope they find solutions, so that's all we want.
Donc c'est tout ce qu'on souhaite, parce que là, franchement, on est...
And in different development, Italy's most wanted mobster, Sicilian Matteo Messina Denaro, who has been on the run since 1993, was arrested in Palermo, Sicily. He was arrested by armed police at La Maddalena private hospital in Palermo, where the man has gone for treatment. Islam Sid with more details.
Italy's security forces captured the country's most wanted mafia boss, Matteo Messina Denaro, who had been on the run for 30 years. Messina Denaro is considered as the boss of Sicily's Cosa Nostra mafia even while a fugitive. He was arrested on Monday at a private clinic in the Sicilian capital, Palermo, where he was undergoing treatment for cancer.
Today, January 16th, 2023, Carabinieri of ROS, GIS and local commands of Sicilian region, as part of the investigations coordinated by Public Prosecutor's Office of Palermo, arrested the fugitive Matteo Messina Denaro in a healthcare facility where he went for treatments.
Palermo resident erupted in tears of joy after his capture. The city's chief prosecutor said that the Italian mobster was never the sole leader of the Sicilian mafia.
Matteo Messina Denaro has never been the sole leader of Cosa Nostra for a whole series of reasons that even the most experienced of you know. He hid in many parts of the country, lastly between Trapani and Palermo, and is naturally a matter of investigation.
Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni congratulated prosecutors and police after his arrest, in which she said it's a great victory for the state.
Today is a historic day, a day of celebration. It's a day of celebration for good people, for the families of the victims of organized crime, because the sacrifice of so many heroes was not in vain, because someone picked up their legacy and the war was carried on.
He was the last of 3 longtime fugitive top-level mafia bosses who had for decades eluded capture. Messina Denaro, who tried in absentia and convicted of dozens of murders, faces multiple life sentences, including the 1992 murders of 2 anti-mafia prosecutors and the 1993 bomb attacks in Florence, Rome and Milan, which killed 10 people.
Now, there are marches in Washington to commemorate the civil rights leaders, Martin Luther King Jr. They're using the public holiday to demand the restoration of voting rights for people convicted with felonies. President Joe Biden said in his latest speech that there is a lot of unfinished work to do. He also highlighted Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, providing guidance on repairing division, extremism, and injustice. January 15th would have been King's 94th birthday.
Nation's history. We face another inflection point in our nation's history, one that's going to determine what this country looks like several decades from now. You know, this is a time for choosing.
The question becomes, have we achieved the dream? And the reality is absolutely not. We have made progress and strides. But we still have a long way to go because Dad wanted to eradicate what he called were the triple evils of poverty, racism, and violence.
For more stories making headlines around the globe, here's the news in brief.
Sri Lankan police fired tear gas and water cannon to disperse hundreds of students protesting in Colombo on Monday, who gathered outside the United Nations office and shouted anti-government slogans. Their main demand was the release of the Inter-University Students' Federation president, who's been under detention for more than 150 days.
Colombia's national police said on Monday they confiscated an arsenal of 33 guns, M60 machine gun, grenades, more than 30,000 bullets and uniforms belonging to dissidents where they were found abandoned in Nariño province in southwestern Colombia.
Motorists in California Sierra braved whiteout conditions on the weekend as part of a new weather system packing rain, snow, and strong winds moved into storm-lashed California in the mountains of the Sierra Nevada. Heavy snow and strong winds brought whiteout conditions in some areas that prompted road closures.
The University of Georgia football player and staff member were killed in a car accident this Sunday after the Bulldogs celebrated winning the NCAA National Championship. The cause of the accident is under investigation.
And finally in our news, Algerian national team manager Majid Bougoura stressed the importance of the confrontation or the game that will bring them together on Tuesday with the Ethiopian national team as part of the second round of the African Nations Championship for locals. While player Zakaria Darawi said that the group is motivated to achieve victory and qualify for the quarterfinals.
En fait, l'équipe d'Éthiopie, je pense que
we're going to play in every fixture as if it's the final. The next game is important for both teams, as both are seeking to be qualified and stay in the tournament, and this is our objective. I say to the players that winning the first game was crucial, but the hardest is yet to come. Nothing is definite, and we need to work hard to qualify.
I believe that all the players are motivated because playing in their home country is already a positive that lifts their spirits. We're all ready and we will do our best to win.
Well, that's the end of our news. For more, you can visit our social media platforms. Thank you for keeping it here on our channel. Till next time, take care.